Alright guys, I'm going to do a quick little video on filing piston rings. I've already done all but 3 for my top ring. So the process will be the same for your first and second. So here's a top ring, one of my top rings. And there's a little, get the focus, a little like M for Molly. Some of them have like a dot, but basically that means that faces up, so whenever you're putting it in. So anytime you're cutting, I got like a little electric one, and I got a hand filer, and then I'm also using a diamond file to clean up the cut, because you don't want any sharp edges on your ring ever. So this is a Summit electric filer, and I'm basically doing the brunt of the work with this, and then I'm fine tuning basically with the hand filer. So first I'll take some ATF, put it on my finger. I'm going about 1.5 inches down, just lubricate the walls. I got a ring squaring tool, the little bill aluminum one, cheap one off Amazon. Summit sells them. And I got some feeler gauges up here. So these rings were already butting up. So whenever I test fit in my cylinder, they were already touching. So there was like 0 gap. I'm shooting for 26 thousandths on my top ring, and my second ring will be 30 thousandths. I wanted this motor to be I wanted my ring gap to be big enough to compensate for the amount of power I plan on making, like in the future when this motor gets put into a car. It's going to get swapped in my truck first, but I ain't trying to take this back apart just to open up ring gap. So I'm going a little bigger just for, say I'm making around 30 pounds of boost in this motor. So I don't want to have to do this again, basically. So with piston ring gap, too small, you risk butting the rings up in the cylinder if you're making a lot of power, a lot of heat, put a lot of heat in that cylinder, and if the rings butt up, then it's a bad day. You basically put the piston in a bind, or you break the piston, or basically catastrophic failure. If you go a little bigger in ring gap, you might have a little more blow by, but it ain't nothing so extreme to where it's going to be some crazy problems. So either way, piston manufacturers will send recommendations. I think I'm like around 7 thousandths per inch of bore is about what it equates to, maybe like 7.5 thousandths per inch of bore. So anyway, and another thing when you're filing, always file the same side. Don't flip-flop back and forth which side you're filing. Just keep filing the same side, and you want to try to keep your cut as square as possible. Don't get on an angle. So this first one, there's a little dial indicator, and you could reset to 0 every time. I'm not, and I don't know how accurate this is as far as how much movement I see in the gauge versus how much we've taken off. But I've learned about 25-30 thousandths of movement of the needle while I'm filing gets me close. So it might be pretty close as far as accuracy. And then like I said, I'm fine tuning with this one. So we'll go ahead and do like about 25-30 thousandths worth on the gauge, and then I'll test fit and see where we're at. So whenever you're putting this ring in the tool, make sure it's square to the blade. And I'm going pretty slow. I even hold the ring just as backup. This is a pretty cheap filer. But basically, just make sure you're square whenever you're cutting. Also, don't get in a hurry and go too fast either, because it doesn't take long for it to start. taking some off. Also, I think if you go too fast, you might risk chipping the ring. If you chip it, it's pretty much trash. So there's sharp edges now, top and bottom. So I'm taking my diamond filer, and I'm basically just lightly rounding these edges. All right, that's good. We're on cylinder 6. So carefully try to, work it and to get started. And I'm taking my squaring tool, so it pushes it down very square, and that's a tiny gap. Still got a ways to go. I probably did like only 20 thousandths according to that. That was maybe like 2 or 3 thousandths of a gap. I've done enough now, like I can kind of get a good rough guess of how much I just took. Yeah. A lot of the videos I watched, guys weren't filing after making their cuts until the very end. Like they would file some, test fit, measure, file some, test fit, measure, and then like they filed like this at the very end. But I'm doing it every time, which adds time, but I know every time I put this ring in that cylinder, I'm not, risking scratching or tearing up the hone finish while putting a sharp edge ring down in the bore. So it's up to you, I guess. This is definitely probably like the kind of the scariest part so far, I would say. Fit in there. A little loose is probably like right around 20, 21, 22 thousandths. 22 does not fit. So we know we're close. We're 20, 21 thousandths. That's where we're sitting at. So now I'll finish it with this. And this, again, make sure you're pulling it on the supports, against the supports, and you rotate this wheel towards the support. The support being these two little black parts that you're resting the ring on. Make sure you stay squared. And then also, like as far as how many rotations, it depends on what the ring material is made out of. This is the top ring, so it's thicker. So all this is taking longer than what it will for the second ring because it's thinner. So this will be the slowest ring to file. It'll take the longest. But you just have to get the feel of everything, and then do 5 rotations. And then check and see how much of a difference. It's also like how much pressure you're pushing the ring into the blade will also affect that too. You don't want to push so hard you're just like dragging it. It should be like a really nice, smooth kind of movement. shortcuts with this file. Bring y'all in. You know, obviously I can't show you through video like the feel of a feeler gauge. You can see the gap. This is a 26. And I'm basically sticking that down in between there, and you should feel like just a little bit of a drag. You know, if you've used feeler gauges doing other things, again, I can't explain the feel of a feeler gauge to somebody, but basically that's what you're doing. It's very tedious. Take your time. Obviously, if you take too much material off the ring, you cannot put it back, so go slow depending on what equipment you're using. Again, start really slow and really conservative, and then measure. And you know, it'll just, my first ring took me 20 minutes because I was, you know, I'm just super paranoid. I don't want to overly file material off. So the very first ring took me like 20 something minutes. Now I'm doing them in about 5 minutes. So yeah, so 5 minutes times 8, 40, and then times 2 to do the second ring, you know. So 80 minutes, almost an hour and a half to do these rings is what it'll take me. Could be faster, you know. Like if you don't have an electric filer and you're only doing everything by hand, I bet you it takes a while. I bet you it takes 2-3 hours, 4 hours maybe. But yeah. That'll be it. I'll probably just make this its own little video. It's about 15 minutes or something long so far. But yeah, that's the process I'm doing and I've done, and that's based on a lot of info I've taken in and watched some other engine builder videos, and I kind of just pulled what I could from all the stuff I watched, and hopefully it helps anybody that wants to file some rings. So if you have any questions, comment down below. Hit me up. Peace. We'll get this done. We're getting closer and closer, but I'm ready to get this motor done, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, just hit me up. I'll answer them. Bye.